The protagonist of this story, Kami-sun, is a high school student who may look normal, but hides a terrifying secret. He is an insector with a living colony of ants crawling inside him, feeding him power. But instead of hunting humans like the others, he uses his terrifying abilities to hunt insectors themselves. He's risking everything to protect the world while hiding the monster that grows stronger every day. Will he be able to control the swarm within and fight for mankind? Let's see. The story kicks off with a girl sprinting through the streets at night, screaming for help as two men chase after her. Just as they're about to catch her, a boy appears behind them and calmly warns them to run if they don't want to die. When the men ignore him, he peels off a patch from his neck, revealing a hole. At that exact moment, the girl transforms into a giant blank ant. Shocked, the men freeze, only to be killed by the ant on the spot. The following day, a team from Bug Reaper arrives at the scene, now in ruins after the ant attack. While examining the area, one of the workers informs their boss that they've discovered a severed lower body and a right arm. The worker also adds that a survivor claimed to have seen a boy nearby during the incident. Meanwhile, at school, a girl named Choa is reading a book about the Bug Reaper group. The book explains that in 2005, monsters wearing insect masks began appearing around the world. These beings not only cause destruction through violence, but also eat people. The scariest part? They live disguised among humans and are known as insectors. Just as Choa finishes reading, the teacher brings up the recent incident in Namandon, mentioning that the police suspect an insector is involved. A masked girl named Sejin turns to Choa and asks if she's from that area, and the two agree to head home together later. While the rest of the class gossips, a boy named Kami-sun, also wearing a patch on his neck, sits quietly munching on snacks. The teacher then asks for the class assignments, assigning Choa, who's the class president, the task of collecting and submitting them. After he leaves, two boys approach Choa, telling her not to turn in any assignments since no one else has finished theirs. But to their shock, Kami-sun hands her his completed assignment. When Kami-sun returns to his seat, the same two boys confront him, asking why he submitted it when they all agreed not to. One of them notices the patch on his neck and jokingly asks if it's a hickey. But when he peels it off, he's stunned to see a hole and a tiny ant crawling out of it. He tries to tell the others, but they dismiss it as a joke. Sejin then teases Choa, asking if she likes Kami-sun, which makes her blush. Later, Choa goes to the teacher's office to submit both Kami-sun and her own assignment. The teacher tells her that she and Kami-sun are free to leave, but the rest of the class must stay behind for cleanup duty. As she walks out, Choa worries about getting home since Sejin is also staying behind. Then she remembers Kami-sun lives in the same town. She nervously tells him about the punishment and asks if she can go home with him. But he flatly refuses and walks away. After school, the class begins their cleanup, but Kami-sun is nowhere to be found. While helping out, Sejin sees Choa crying and asks what's wrong. Choa explains that Kami-sun rejected her. Nearby, two boys step aside, and one asks the other about what he saw earlier with Kami-sun, a snack. The boy confirms it. He really did see an ant crawl out of it. As they speak, an insector suddenly appears and kills one of the boys, slicing off his head. A nearby girl, horrified, takes off running in fear. As the insector appears in front of the other students, panic breaks out and they all start fleeing in terror. Amid the chaos, Sejin collapses, and Choa desperately tries to wake her. But then she notices the insector is approaching them. Just as it's about to strike, it suddenly halts and confusingly addresses her as the class president, questioning why she's even there. When Choa looks closely, she realizes in shock that the insector is actually their teacher. The teacher, now furious, scolds her for not listening to him. As he raises his weapon to kill her, an ant suddenly attacks and slices off both of his hands. Stunned, Choa sees a mysterious figure clad in black ant armor standing nearby, the person who just saved her. Overwhelmed, Choa loses consciousness too, and the ant-armored man, revealed to be Kami-sun, catches her. The teacher-turned monster growls that he knows Kami-sun and questions why he's attacking his own kind. Kami-sun responds by slamming a fierce punch into the monster's stomach, sending it flying. After laying the two girls safely to the side, Kami-sun turns and demands to know why the monster is killing students. The monster, now enraged, admits it's because it's been struggling to find food and even threatens to eat Kami-sun. It then morphs into a ball, hurling itself at Kami-sun and smashing him to the ground. The monster keeps leaping and crashing into Kami-san repeatedly, tearing up the entire area. But Kami-san stays composed. When a monster charges at him again, Kami-san enlarges his hands and drives them straight into the creature's body. Shocked, the monster can't react in time as Kami-san lands another heavy punch into its gut, grabs it tightly, and tears it apart with sheer force. Once the creature is destroyed, Kami-san reverts back to his human form and quietly walks away. Soon after, the Bug Reaper team arrives at the site, collecting the bodies of the fallen students. The group's leaders stand with a formidable ally, who surveys the destruction and notes that it looks like a brutal fight between insects. A worker approaches the boss, reporting that the schoolgirl who had faced the beetle has regained consciousness. She mentioned a man in black who saved her. At the same time, they hear that another student is speaking to the media, claiming he saved his classmates and even took photos of the monsters. Not wanting to complicate things, the boss walks over to Choa, who is on a call reassuring her worried mother. Seeing the boss smoking, Choa puts on an oxygen mask, but he tells her it's not a cigarette, it's insect repellent. He then asks her about what happened. Choa explains that when the teacher tried to kill them, a black figure showed up and rescued them. When the powerful man asks why she's calling the figure human, she says he just looked like one. The boss then calmly asks her which student skipped the cleaning punishment that day. Later that night, Kami's son returns home, where his grandmother warmly greets him and tells him she made lots of food. But Kami's son says he's not hungry. Worried, she asks if he's injured and tells him to rest in his room. Once inside, Kami's son turns on the TV, where news coverage is reporting the incident from earlier. The broadcast reveals that a large number of students were killed at a high school in Kurugu, Seoul, by none other than their own teacher, who turned out to be an insector. Lying on his bed, Kami's son watches as a line of blank-faced ants crawls in through the window and enters the hole in his neck. The next day, at an abandoned building, the police are searching for several missing children. On the third floor, they're horrified to find the kids trapped in cocoons. Outside, the Bug Reaper team waits in a parked car, ready for the call. Tae asks why they can't just go in and help, but Sam explains the police have the first say in the investigation. Moments later, the police urgently call for assistance, and Leader Pyo immediately orders the team to head inside. Inside the building, the police begin cutting open the cocoons. The captain notes that the enemy is an insector, so they have to act quickly. One of the officers opens a cocoon and comforts the children inside, telling them they're safe now. Just then, a sudden strike kills one of the soldiers instantly. The captain turns and spots a mosquito-type insector, who demands to know what they're doing with his children. When another soldier fires at the creature, it moves with lightning speed and kills him immediately. The captain realizes it's even faster than a bullet. As the creature lunges toward him, Sam fires from a tower, but the shot only grazes the insector's nose. When it charges at the captain again, Tae jumps in and strikes it with a stick. Pyo then tells the captain to evacuate the children. Right at that moment, as the insector leaps again, Pyo calmly flicks cigarette ash toward it, causing it to fall. But the creature doesn't back down. It breaks the tip of its nose and launches a wave of mosquito attacks. Pyo throws more smoke to stop it, successfully saving everyone. Though the insectum manages to escape through a window, Pyo tells Sam to shoot it, but before he can do anything, he's injured by the swarm of mosquito attacks. The next day, Choa sits at the playground with her younger brother and his friend, reading news about the school incident. She feels sorry for Sejin, who had brain surgery and isn't accepting any visitors. While she reads, her little brother, wearing a bee mask, tries to scare her. When she scolds him, he runs off. Choa complains about having to watch over him, especially since he's not even attending school. Looking up, she sees Kami's son nearby, holding a few ice creams. He gives one to her brother, and the three of them start eating together. Suddenly, Choa's brother kicks the soccer ball out of the playground. He tells her and runs off with his friend to retrieve it. Choa tries to stop him, but Kami's son assures her he'll bring the boys back. At the spot, Kami's son finds the second boy holding the ball and asking why Kami's son is there. A boy casually says, Kami's son seems like one of his kind. This boy is actually the mosquito insector from the day before. He reveals that he was about to eat the kid before Kami's son interrupted. He warns Kami's son to stay out of his territory or face the consequences. To his surprise, Kami's son peels off a patch from his neck and suddenly transforms into Ant-Man. The insector accuses Kami's son of spreading rumors about his rivals and declares that Kami's son will die today. He transforms back into his true mosquito form and starts darting around Kami's son, taunting him for being so slow he can't even follow his movements. Feeling pleased with himself, the insector keeps circling until Kami's son easily catches him midair and defeats him in an instant. Afterward, Kami's son turns back into his human form and rejoins Choa and her brother. The little boy asks for more ice cream, and Kami's son cheerfully gives him everything, saying he's already full. The following day, after a week-long break, the students return to school, only to be disheartened by the announcement that Class 3 has been shut down. Now, they have to attend classes with students from other sections. Choa apologizes to her old classmates, explaining she's no longer the class president, and moves to a new class. As she sadly looks at her chat with Sejin and scans the room, she mumbles that even in a new class, that annoying guy Nosu is still around. At the same time, Nosu is goofing off and making a racket with some boys when Yejin, a tough and fearless girl from the class, gets irritated. Without warning, she kicks him and firmly tells him to keep it down. She walks away, and Choa silently thinks that Yejin handles guys like Nosu way better. As Yejin exits, Kami's son enters the classroom. Excited, Choa calls him over and points out that the girl who just walked out is the real deal in this class. Soon after, the teacher announces a test. Kami's son, still feeling hungry, complains, but Choa comforts him by saying they'll eat lunch together later. Right then, he hears a strange, secretive voice. It's an insector calling him. When the test ends and the class begins to relax, Choa looks over to Kami's son, his seat, but realizes he's disappeared. He's actually on his way, following the mysterious voice. Elsewhere, Pyo and Tae are headed to the school, chatting about the mosquito insector they encountered the day before. Suddenly, Kami's son bumps into Pyo but doesn't stop and continues walking. Pyo and Tae then reach the teacher's office, where Pyo tells Choa that he's here to meet the student she was supposed to introduce him to. Choa informs them that the student left because he was hungry. Tae then wonders if the student who bumped into Pyo earlier was the same guy. Pyo hands Choa his card and tells her to give it to the student before he leaves for the hospital to see Sam. Meanwhile, Kami's son arrives at the voice's location and transforms into Ant-Man. He spots an insector waiting and immediately attacks, but the creature dodges and lands a kick on Kami's son. Kami's son lunges again and punches the insector in the face, but he's puzzled by its odd movements. Not taking chances, he unleashes an ant attack and kills it on the spot. However, he soon notices threads attached to the insector's body, realizing too late that it was a trap set by Silk. Suddenly, a bomb emerges from the creature's mouth and explodes, flinging Kami's son backwards. That's when the real insector, Silk, shows up. She sharply asks Kami's son if he's ever killed a fly before. Just then, another insector arrives wielding a large gun, commenting that the death of the fly has caused problems, especially with customers who wanted young meat. He orders Silk to kill Kami's son. She kicks him hard in the head, but to her shock, it turns out to be just Kami's son's shell. At that very moment, Kami's son drops down from above with armored fists, aiming a punch at Silk. The gun-wielding insector opens fire, but Kami's son expertly dodges using his armored hands. As he gets ready to strike again, Silk catches him off guard with her threads, grabbing his arm from behind. She uses the opening to land a strong kick, slamming him into the ground. Now on his knees, Kami's son faces the insector pointing a gun right at his head. Just as the trigger is about to be pulled, he commands his black ant shell to move. At that critical moment, Tae shows up and redirects the gun away from Kami's son. Pyo also arrives and remarks that these insectors keep pushing their limits. As he prepares to finish them off, Silk suddenly hurls a bomb at them and escapes with the other insector. Tae tells Pyo their focus should now be on catching the black ant. But when they turn around, Kami's son has already vanished. Tae worries that if their commander finds out they let him slip away again, they'll be in serious trouble. Later, Kami's son returns home and sits to eat with his grandmother. He eats fast, driven by hunger, and heads to his room once he's done. But his mind drifts back to the disturbing words of the insectors, how he had started killing his own kind. Lost in thought, he takes off his shirt, and that's when black ants start biting him from the inside, causing him to scream out in agony. Meanwhile, in a hidden location, Yejin is busy collecting human cocoons. It turns out she's the same silk-based insector who had attacked Kami's son earlier. After safely storing the cocoons in a locker room, she heads over to meet her superior, another insector, who angrily scolds her. He complains that he needed to capture the black ant to get noticed by the heavenly insects, but the bug reapers ruined his plan. When Yejin removes her jacket, her boss notices something unexpected. Her uniform looks exactly like Ant-Man's. Suspicious, he grabs her sleeve and demands to know if she knows him. Yejin denies any connection, but he insists that Ant-Man is her classmate and commands her to kill him. Yejin clearly refuses, saying she doesn't want to do such filthy work. But the boss grabs her by the throat and reminds her of the promise she once made to do anything he asked. Now she's backing out. Just then his dog barks outside. Curious, he checks and sees a boy trying to escape. He switches to the security feed and asks Yejin if she forgot to lock the room. She calmly replies that she didn't and adds that she's quitting. Without hesitation, he throws a bomb at the escaping boy, killing him on the spot. Yejin is left in shock. He repeats his demand. She must kill the black ant. The next day, at school, the students are having lunch. Nosu asks the cafeteria lady for more sauce, but she refuses. While eating, he notices Kami's son devouring a massive amount of food and gets confused. Choa also remarks that Kami's son seems to be eating far more than usual. As Kami's son keeps eating, the black ants inside his body start attacking again. Seeing his discomfort, Choa asks if something's wrong, while Nosa stares at Kami's son, as plate and jokes that some people get unlimited refills. Choa informs him that Kami's son is actually paying for 10 meals. Nosa teases that anyone eating this much might be an insector. Hearing that, Yejin glances at Kami's son. When Nosu continues to pester, Kami's son suddenly snaps. He grabs Nosa by the mouth, shoves him aside, and rushes out, thinking that his hunger still isn't satisfied. Inside, the ants are attacking more aggressively, and he's starting to lose control. Screaming in agony, his upper body transforms into Ant-Man. At that moment, Yejin appears and immediately realizes Kami's son is an insector. She transforms too. As Kami's son lunges to attack, she counters using her silk threads. Later, Kami's son dreams of being swarmed by huge black ants, begging them to stop. Just then, a massive red ant appears and slaughters them all. Suddenly, Kami's son wakes up in his bed, unable to remember what happened after he saw her. He wonders if the silence from the ants means she's dead. His grandmother calls out, asking if he's hungry. Kami's son declines. She then asks if he caught any bugs the day before. Kami's son admits he doesn't remember and asks how he got home. She explains that a tall girl with yellow hair carried him back, covered in blood. This surprises Kami's son, and she even asks if that girl is like him. Kami's son denies it, but realizes Yejin must still be alive. Just then, he hears that familiar, secret voice of another insector calling to him. He follows it. Meanwhile, Yejin and her boss are in an open area. The boss complains about all the problems she's caused and asks why she still hasn't killed the black ant. As they argue, Kami's son appears in his Ant-Man form. Both Yejin and her boss immediately shift into their insecta forms. Yejin leaps at Kami's son, but he easily dodges. Using his powerful hand, he punches her in the stomach, cracking her armor and sending her flying. As Kami's son walks past her, she asks where he's going, saying the fight isn't over. She grabs his foot, explaining that if she doesn't stop him, she'll never be able to get her revenge on the celestial insects. Watching this, her boss mocks her, calling her pathetic for crawling on the ground. She calls him by name, Jang Yal, and demands to know what he's doing. Jang cruelly responds, saying she really thought he'd help her with revenge. He reveals that he always intended to hand her over to the celestial insects too. Furious, Yejin yells that she endured all this pain for him, and now he's ready to toss her aside. Jang charges at her, ready to finish her off with a hand strike. At that very moment, Kami's son jumps into the air, unseen by Jang. When he lands, a powerful blast erupts. Jang laughs, saying there are landmines planted and Kami's son will explode soon. Kami's son, however, knows he has to move faster. He focuses his power and targets Jang's hand. As Jang launches another strike, Kami's son dodges, grabs his arm, and swiftly slices off Jang's head. Yejin is stunned. Kami's son returns to human form and orders the ants to devour Jang's corpse. As he walks past, Yejin calls out, asking why he saved her, and whether he's now against the celestial insects. Kami-san demands she tell him what happened the day they fought. Surprised he doesn't remember, Yejin starts explaining. She says when she blocked his attack, he slammed her to the ground. Just as his armored hand was about to strike her, he tried to stop himself, but his hand turned on him. She used her silk to restrain it. That moment triggered something, causing Kami's-san to revert back into human form. But he fainted. She goes on, saying she spent a long time debating whether to kill him. Eventually, she decided that he might be the key to defeating the celestial insects. She tells him that now, with Jang dead, Kami's-san has become the insect's main target. Their human supply line is cut, and they'll come after him, his family, his friends, everyone close to him. Yejin promises to fight beside him, but Kami-san rejects her offer. He accuses her of just latching onto anything because she can't handle being alone. He coldly tells her he can't save people who are already lost. Then, placing his ant hand on her face, he declares he'll devour everything. The next day at school, the teacher walks in and begins taking attendance. But when he calls out Yejin's name, there's no response. He's confused. Yejin has never missed a day before. Nosu and his friend notice this and seem quite satisfied. They bring up an accident that happened in Nunshin the previous day, and since they often saw Yejin around that area, they assume she must have died. Just as they're feeling pleased about it, Yejin unexpectedly walks into the class and announces her presence, shocking them both. Meanwhile, back at the site where Jang was defeated, a team from the Bug Reapers is investigating. They discover his prosthetic leg along with a strange bug pill. While they're examining the area, a healthy-looking man shows up and tries to walk into the restricted zone. A worker attempts to stop him by placing a hand on his shoulder, but the man swiftly slices the worker's hand off. The team reacts instantly, and one of them radios for backup, warning that an untransformed insector is on the scene. Before help arrives, the man kills everyone there. After picking up the bug pill, he makes a call to inform someone that the sample is now secured. Back at school, Yejin secretly passes a note to Kami-san, asking him to meet her outside. When he joins her, he asks her seriously why she called him there. She responds with a question of her own, why he's acting like he doesn't already know. She recalls the terrifying moment when he had covered her mouth and how she thought she would die. But when she woke up, she was still alive. As she shares this memory, Kami's-san steps closer. She then asks for his help. He brushes her off coldly, saying she's just emergency food to him. But Yejin explains that now even Kami's-san is a target of the insectors. She reveals that their goal is to wipe out humans and rise to the top of the food chain. They're evolving and eliminating anything in their path. Despite her warning, Kami's-san refuses to help. Watching them from above, Choa sees the two together and can't help but feel a little jealous. At the Bug Reaper facility, a doctor is fitting Tae with a special suit designed for combat against insect enemies. Outside the lab, others are watching through the glass. Pyo mentions that they recently lost 4 members in an accident, which is why he wants everyone equipped with this new gear. To test the suit, the doctor opens another door and releases an insector into the room with Tae. Alone with the creature, Tae feels uncertain about his weapon, but the doctor urges him to activate the suit's built-in system. As Tae gets ready, he suddenly realizes the insector has vanished from in front of him. Confused, he turns, and the insector is right behind him. It lunges to attack, but the suit reacts instantly, yanking Tae out of danger. Gaining some confidence, Tae engages and blocks a powerful punch, kicking the insector away. But the creature grabs his neck. Before it can finish him off, an electric shock strikes the insector, saving Tae. The doctor announces that the test is over and the insector is returned to its holding cell. Later, Pyo visits the library for more research. He flips through several books, but finds nothing useful, until he stumbles upon one titled Ant Castle Project. Inside is a picture of an insector along with a name, Kojima. Meanwhile, Yejin explains to Kami-san that aside from fighting the insect enemies, she also has a personal goal, to kill someone. When Kami-san asks who, she reveals it's none other than the leader of the celestial insects, Kojima. Hearing this, Kami-san is visibly shaken, recalling the painful moment when Kojima had killed his mother. Later, as Kami-san heads home, Yejin calls out from behind, playfully asking if he's going out hunting. When he says no, she suggests they go enjoy some meat together since they've reunited. Kami-san sternly asks if she's referring to eating humans. Yejin laughs and assures him she just wants a good meal, not people. They reach a hotel restaurant and order food. As the waiter sets the dishes on the table, he nervously asks his boss what happens if the guests don't finish their meal. The boss replies that they'll simply be charged for whatever's left. But both men are stunned when Kami's son and Yejin start devouring the food at lightning speed. During the meal, Yejin asks Kami's son what he knows about Kojima. When he refuses to answer, she guesses that something tragic must have happened to his family. She then shares her own story, how Kojima killed both of her parents. But what stuck with her the most was when Kojima spared her life, saying he couldn't kill his own kind. As she talks, Kami-san finishes all his food. Yejin notices and orders more, surprising both the waiter and the boss again. After eating, they leave the restaurant, and Yejin suggests grabbing a drink. While she's ordering from a nearby stall, Kami-san senses something strange about the people walking around them. A couple walks by, a girl and a boy, and Kami-san suddenly mutters that he's going to eat them. The girl just laughs it off, and they stroll away. When Yejin returns and asks what that intense look was about, Kami-san simply replies that someone among them is an insector. Meanwhile, Choa arrives at the hospital where her friend Sejin is admitted. Standing outside the room, she acknowledges to herself that Sejin probably doesn't want to see her, so she simply leaves a gift. From inside, Sejin tells her to go away. As Choa walks off, memories of their time together flood her mind, and in that moment, she also notices a stunning girl walking down the corridor. Inside Sejin's room, she sits silently on the bed. Suddenly, the door opens and the same beautiful girl walks in. She questions why Sejin is so angry, urging her not to keep all those emotions bottled up. Then, taking a strange bug pill out of her own mouth, she places it into Sejin's mouth, saying that all the irritating humans need to be wiped out. As soon as Sejin swallows the pill, her body begins to react violently, and she screams in agony. Meanwhile, outside in the backyard, that same girl is with a boy. She's excited to see a pool, and the boy playfully shoves her in, telling her to enjoy herself. But when she looks up from the water, he's nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, he grabs her foot from beneath the surface and drags her down, slamming her to the bottom until she faints. He murmurs that now he can finally feed on her to quench his hunger. This boy, an insector, senses something unusual outside the window. It's Kami's son, the Ant-Man, who crashes through the glass and delivers a powerful kick to him. The insector tries to fight back, but Yejin arrives and restrains him using her thread magic. She then pulls the unconscious girl from the pool and feels relieved to find her still breathing. When the insector questions why they're interfering with his meal, Kami's son prepares to strike him. But Yejin stops him, suggesting they should capture the insector alive, as he might hold valuable information. Realizing they're turning against their own kind, the insector challenges them, asking if they truly think they can take him down. Suddenly, he transforms into his true insect form, Zagana, and unleashes devastating slashes that injure both of them. He mocks them for always hunting the weak, and dares them to face a real celestial insect. Zagana is actually a pawn skater insect. When Kami's son and Yejin try to retaliate, he effortlessly blocks their attacks using his twin swords and swiftly lunges toward Kami's son. Yejin quickly pulls Kami's son aside, saving him from the deadly blow. Watching Zagana's movements, Yejin begins to suspect he might be manipulating water. She realizes the entire area is surrounded by it, and getting too close would put her within his lethal range. The sheer strength of the celestial insects begins to dawn on her. They're far more powerful than she imagined, even among the insectors. As she contemplates this, Kami's son suddenly charges towards Zagana and instructs her to lay a thread across the water surface. Although uncertain, she follows his lead. At the same time, Kami's son knows it's time to unlock the mysterious red power he inherited after defeating Jang. Focusing on disarming Zagana's twin swords, he engages in fierce close combat. He lands a few solid hits to Zagana's ribs, knocking the swords out of his hands. Empowered by the red energy, Kami's son jumps in for a finishing move. But to his shock, Zagana pulls out two more swords hidden behind his back and strikes with a powerful cross slash, tearing through Kami's son's armor. Just as the tide turns against them, Yejin intervenes, snatching one of Zagana's swords with her threads and yanking it free. Seeing the opportunity, Kami's son seizes the sword and plunges it into Zagana's chest. Zagana tries to counter with another attack, but Kami's son blocks it with his bare hand and orders his ants to swarm and devour the insector. Zagana screams as he's overtaken. Suddenly, the same well-built man who had previously slaughtered members of the Bug Reaper group appears. Without warning, he punches Kami's son in the face and attacks Yejin as well. Tossing his club card at them, he swiftly rescues Zagana and disappears from the scene. Meanwhile, Sejin returns to her hometown and goes to visit her friend, who is shocked to see her. When her friend asks her to step aside, Sejin instead leans in and plants a gentle kiss on her lips, something she's done often. But this time it's different. Sejin is now an insector. Without warning, she extends her long tongue and kills her friend instantly. Once she's done, the same beautiful woman who gave Sejin the bug pill at the hospital appears. She curiously asks how human blood tastes, since it was Sejin's first time drinking it. Sejin responds that it's delicious. Elsewhere, on a public train, a man stands among the passengers, behaving oddly. Overcome with hunger, he suddenly lashes out with a long tongue and slaughters everyone around him in an instant. Meanwhile, Choa is walking to school when she notices Kami's son ahead. She's surprised to see his face bruised and asks about it. Kami's son explains he got into a fight, which is why he looks that way. At school, Choa is glad to see Sejin looking much healthier now and tells her she was really worried, especially since Sejin never came to visit. Sejin brushes it off, saying she was just avoiding people because she got a haircut. While they talk, Kami's son arrives in class, and Sejin asks about the seat next to her. Choa says it belongs to Yejin, the class leader. Meanwhile, Yejin is at home resting. She texts Kami's son to let him know she won't make it to school because she had to go to the hospital. She then picks up the mysterious card thrown by a strange man earlier and wonders who he could be. Back at school, Nosa starts teasing Sejin about her new short haircut. When he notices a cut on the back of her head, he seems surprised but keeps mocking her. As Sejin starts getting irritated, her insector instincts begin to show. But before anything happens, Choa punches Nosu in the face and demands he apologize to Sejin. Nosu quickly agrees and leaves. Watching all this, Kami-san senses something unusual in Sejin's energy. It feels unstable, and he suspects it might be too dangerous for her to remain an insector. Back on the train, the man who had killed all the passengers suddenly transforms into a massive larvae-form insector. At that moment, two brothers from the Bug Reaper group, Ko and Ro, arrive and are stunned by the insect's massive size. Ro says they need to capture it and bring it back to headquarters for the doctor to examine. But just then, the insector lunges at Ro. Ko quickly reacts by throwing a liquid on its face and shooting it in the head. Still, the creature doesn't go down and instead strikes Ro with its tail. Enraged, Ko grabs the insector, boasts that he's stronger than his brother, and throws it away. Ro uses the opening to jump in and slash the creature, finally killing it. As the insector dies, a small bug pill crawls out of its body and burrows into Ro's head. After that, the two brothers bring the huge larvae back to Bug Reaper headquarters. There, Dr. Tay and Sam greet them from corner. They say they've heard about the capture, but sarcastically mention it's a shame the brothers caught it first. Ro, now acting a bit off, steps forward with a strange attitude that surprises Tay. Meanwhile, the doctors begin examining the large insector and find the small larvae hidden inside it. Back at school, after class ends, Choa signals to Sejin that they need to go get some meat together. They head to a hotel restaurant where Kami's son is also with them. Sejin jokingly teases Choa, asking if she's dating him, but Choa immediately denies it. However, Sejin can't help but notice the strange way Kami's son keeps looking at her, leaving her a bit confused. Once they finish their meal, they leave the restaurant, and suddenly, Sejin gets a surprising message. She quickly turns to Choa and tells her that she needs to go somewhere urgently. As Sejin leaves, Kami's son and Choa begin walking together, and Choa happily remarks that she's relieved to see Sejin looking much better than she expected. Then, Choa suddenly remembers she has to give Sejin an important book. When she tells Kami's son that she needs to go, he grabs her hand and asks her to stay. He explains that since Sejin was just discharged from the hospital, the teacher will probably understand if Choa arrives a little late. Meanwhile, Sejin is on the phone when a car suddenly stops in front of her. An old man inside tells her to get in quickly. Nearby, Nosu's friend watches this and remarks that he got punched earlier because of her. He also jealously comments about her dad's fancy car, but Nosu quickly brushes it off, saying she doesn't have a dad. Later that night, Yejin heads to the club belonging to the healthy guy, feeling nervous that they might only focus on checking her ID. Upon arriving, she's surprised by the massive size of the club's building and the long line of men waiting outside. She sends a text to Kami-sun, asking him to come to the six-shot club, but when he refuses, she grumbles to herself that he always does this. Just then, a man calls out to her from behind, asking if it's her first time at the club. It turns out to be Park Mingyun, the same insect she had encountered before. He leads her into the club, and Yejin is instantly amazed by the club's beautiful lighting and overall atmosphere. She starts playing with the lights, admiring how great the place looks. In her mind, she thinks that this flashy club is just a front to gather information about the insectors. She then shows her invitation card to Mingyun, saying she was invited here. Mingyun looks at the card and tells her that they need to move to a different area. As they walk, they arrive at a massive elevator, and Yejin is shocked by its sheer size. Mingyun explains that the VIP space is meant to be special and adds that not just anyone gets invited. She must have some connection to their boss. When they reach the lower floor, Yejin is stunned by what she sees. A huge crowd of humans and insectors are gathered, some of them even fighting in an arena-like battlefield. Mingyun explains that this is the VIP area of Club 6 Shot, a place that's basically a lawless heaven and hell combined. As a group of humans manage to kill an insector, a massive one named Jack suddenly appears and starts attacking the humans. Yejin, shocked, asks Mingyun why humans and insectors are fighting. He tells her that the giant insector is Queen Jack, the star of this no-man's land. He explains that despite her enormous size, there are still others who are stronger than her. At that moment, another insector suddenly fires from behind and kills Queen Jack instantly. Yejin is horrified and demands to know what all this violence is about. Mingyun calmly explains that the violence thrills and entertains the humans, while insectors fight for honor since winning gives them the chance to ascend as a celestial insector. He also points out that strength alone isn't enough. They must share the right ideology too. He then hands her a bug pill and mentions that there's another method to become a celestial insector. Suddenly, another insector approaches them and informs Mingyun that the boss is asking for him. Yejin panics and quickly escapes through the large elevator. Mingyun looks puzzled for a moment, and when the insector repeats the boss's message, Mingyun punches him hard in the face. The following day at school, Yejin walks up to Kami-sun and starts hitting him playfully, annoyed that he didn't join her at the club. Once she's done, she mentions that she's gathered some crucial information. Right then, Sejin and Choa walk into the classroom, and Choa is surprised to notice how all the boys are staring at Sejin differently. Curious, Choa asks what's going on, and the boys begin whispering that Sejin was seen with an old man the day before. Everyone is shocked upon hearing this, and Choa quickly grabs Sejin's hand, trying to pull her away. But before they can leave, Nosu approaches and starts teasing her. He says that a friend of his saw Sejin being picked up by an old man in a car. Then, Nosu recalls that Sejin doesn't even have a father. He explains that the old man's creepy expression worried him, so he followed them by taxi. He even pulls out a photo showing Sejin entering a hotel with the old man. As Nosu keeps provoking her, Yejin turns to Kami-sun and suggests they should teach him a lesson again. But before they can act, Kami-sun suddenly senses something odd from the insect nearby. Choa steps forward, ready to punch Nosu, but Sejin stops her. Taking Choa outside, Sejin calmly assures her that she'll handle it herself. She then shuts the classroom door. Nosu smirks and warns her that if she hits him again, he'll report her to the school violence committee. But instead of reacting, Sejin suddenly bursts into laughter, leaving everyone confused. One of Nosu's friends mockingly apologizes, but freezes in shock as Sejin begins to morph into her insector form. She punches him hard, and the entire class panics, rushing to the door, but she blocks their exit with her large hand. Watching all this, Yejin asks Kami-sun if they should intervene, but he refuses, saying it's too risky with so many witnesses. Meanwhile, Sejin calls out Nosu, ordering him to step out from where he's hiding among the others. Trembling, he approaches her, and she instantly grabs his neck with her long hand, furious, blaming him for ruining her dreams. He was the one who pushed her down during the teacher-insector attack before. As she's about to kill him with her long tongue, Kami-sun stops her, asking what she'll say to Choa if she murders Nosu. At that moment, Nosu desperately tells his friends to report this to the Bug Reaper group, but when they don't move, he pleads with Kami-sun to do it instead. Hearing this, Sejin lets go of Nosu and, thinking back to past events, says that even killing him now wouldn't ease her guilt. She pulls out some bug pills from her bag, saying she'll make him suffer, just like she did. She forces the pills into his mouth, making him scream in agony as his body transforms into a bug-like insector, shocking everyone. Yejin then recalls when Park gave her the same pills and realizes their true purpose. Sitting by the window, Sejin comments that Nosu now fully looks like a bug. Right then, a teacher and Choa knock on the door. Sejin mutters that she doesn't want Choa to see her like this, expressing her hatred for humans. She then jumps out the window and vanishes from sight. When Choa and the teacher finally force the door open, they're stunned to see a massive insector standing inside. One of the unconscious students wakes up, realizing the insector is actually Sejin, and quickly tries to call the Bug Reaper group. But before he can, Choa stops him. Meanwhile, Nosu stares at his reflection in horror, realizing he is fully transformed into an insector. Terrified of the Bug Reaper group, he jumps out of the window and escapes. Watching this, Choa feels sorry for her friend. Meanwhile, Kami-sun and Yejin run through the streets, tracking Sejin's trail. Yejin mentions she's sure Sejin is linked to Cha Yan-young, noting that the pills Sejin gave Nosu were the same ones she got from the Six-Shot Club. They both agree that they've already planted an ant and a thread on Sejin to monitor her movements. Soon, they arrive at Sejin's location and ask her to talk for a bit. Before she can reply, Hana appears out of nowhere, hugging Sejin tightly and claiming there's one thing she despises: when someone touches what belongs to her. Yejin, confused, says she doesn't get what Hana is talking about, insisting they only came to speak with Sejin. Suddenly, Hana attacks, kicking Yejin, but Kami-san blocks it, taking the hit instead. As Hana readies to strike Yejin again, she suddenly stops and unexpectedly sucks Yejin's ear. Yejin tries to counterattack, but Hana effortlessly evades, revealing herself as an insector too. In response, Yejin transforms into her own insector form and lunges to attack, but Hana dodges with ease. Turning toward Kami-san, Hana notices that he's also transformed into his insector form, and as he tries to punch her, she swiftly dodges again, taunting that predictable moves like theirs will never catch her. After all, disappearing right in front of their eyes is her specialty. At the same time, Sejin is left stunned to discover that her classmate, Kami-sun, is also an insector. Without wasting a second, Kami-sun lunges at Hana, throwing a strong punch with his huge hand. Meanwhile, Yejin quickly uses her thread magic to cast a star trap around Hana, but neither of their attacks works on her. Hana swiftly materializes a giant injection in her hand and plunges it straight into Kami-sun's stomach. Strangely, when she sees his blood, she's shocked to find out it's red. Just as Yejin leaps toward her, Hana swiftly turns the injection and stabs it into Yejin's arm instead. Yejin is left baffled since neither attack seems to have any effect. But soon after, the spots where Hana injected them start swelling. Suddenly, an explosion bursts out, shattering their armor. As Hana gets ready to attack again, Sejin hurriedly steps between them, quickly lying that some customers were curious about the medicine. Hearing this, Hana immediately stops. She then pulls out the same bug pill and explains to them that it's a special medicine meant for insectors. It greatly boosts their powers upon consumption. But she also warns that if a human swallows it, they'll mutate into a giant larvae, and if larvae are eaten, the power doubles. Both Kami-sun and Yejin are shocked by this revelation. Right then, as two random humans pass by, Hana calls one of them over to demonstrate. She puts the bug pill in the boy's mouth, and within seconds, his body starts transforming into a massive larvae. The other boy watching gets terrified, and Yejin is also left stunned after witnessing it. Once again, Hana explains it's a gift. Consuming the bug pill makes them stronger. With that, she leaves, telling them to visit her at Club Six-Shot if they're interested in the medicine. As Hana walks away with Sejin, Kami-san suddenly steps up and kills the larvae, which shocks Yejin. She immediately questions if he's seriously planning to eat the mutated human. Kami-san simply orders his black ants to move and tells Yejin he just wants to test something. As his ants begin feasting on the larvae, Yejin furiously says that Kami-san is no different from other insectors who eat humans just for power, feeling utterly disgusted. However, Kami-san coldly tells her to shut up and just watch. Much to her shock, the boy starts reverting back to his human form. The ants crawling inside his body successfully retrieve the bug pill from his mouth. Kami-san then admits he's been feeling uneasy about this bug pill ever since he sensed it near Sejin. Hearing this, Yejin nervously asks if letting the ants eat the pill might have an effect on him too. Kami-san bluntly says he's not sure. But as his ants return inside his body, something unusual happens. He suddenly screams out in pain, leaving Yejin even more worried. Inside Club Six Shot, Kang Dejun, the boss, is enjoying drinks with several female insectors. Soon, Hannah arrives with Sejin, and as they sit down, she casually mentions that she and Kang are equals in this place. Kang then notices something on her arm and asks if she's been in a fight. Hannah admits it, saying her opponent was tough because he was young. During their conversation, Kang suddenly brings up that 50 bug pills went missing the previous day. Hannah nonchalantly replies that it simply means he got robbed. Without any warning, Kang lunges forward and grabs Sejin's face, accusing her of stealing the pills. Shocked by his sudden move, Hannah immediately pulls out a syringe and points it at Kang's neck. In response, the two other girls quickly draw their swords, ready to strike. Kang then demands answers from Sejin regarding the missing pills. Calmly, Sejin confesses that she gave all the pills to Nosu as part of her revenge against him. Hearing this, Kang relaxes and lets go of her. Hannah then asks if he already knew she was behind it. Kang explains that after learning about Sejin's involvement last night, he had someone follow her. He adds that he's now looking forward to meeting the person who consumed the 50 bug pills because he wants to devour him personally. Meanwhile, the Bug Reaper team is in the middle of a mission tracking down the larvae insector, Nosu. They manage to corner him and launch an attack. As Nosu starts losing control, Pyo steps in and lands a powerful slash to his neck, taking him down. Just as Pyo orders the team to secure the body, something unexpected occurs. The ground begins dragging the team members downward. To their shock, Park appears along with a young child insector. Observing the scene, Pyo calmly puts his sword away as Park asks his companion whether the Bug Reaper team has given up the fight. The team members alert Pyo that they're sinking further, but Pyo stays composed and questions Park if this is the work of the giant ant. Sensing a bad omen, the child insector gets tense. Suddenly, Pyo points his weapon at them and releases a powerful current attack aimed at the child. Furious, Park transforms into his insector form and blocks Pyo's approach, starting a fierce fight. At the same time, the Bug Reaper team stops sinking, and Pyo commands them to capture the large larvae, no matter what. Pyo draws his sword again and tries to strike Park, but Park blocks him with ease. Their fight grows more intense as Park wields his twin swords. As Pyo steps back, he questions whether his attacks feel heavier to Park. At that moment, Pyo throws a smoke bomb to distract him, landing a powerful slash on Park's shoulder. Then, the child transforms into a dangerous insector known as Ant Lion, launching a sudden attack from beneath the ground. Pyo narrowly dodges, but Ant Lion seriously injures one of the team members, who then begins to sink again. The insectors then talk about taking the larvae back to the club. Hearing this, Pyo is shocked, while the team focuses on the fact that the insectors are trying to escape. As Pyo tries to attack again, he realizes that his weapon's battery has run out. Suddenly, buildings nearby begin to crumble, forcing the Bug Reaper team to run for their lives. Just as Pyo attempts to go after Ant Lion again, the insector hurls one of the team members aside and quickly makes his escape. As the fight comes to an end, Pyo remarks grimly that now it's their turn to hunt, and that he'll be investigating every club in the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Kami-san is chasing an insector who's clearly terrified of him. As he gets closer, he splits into two black ant forms and defeats it on the spot with ease. Back at school, a group of students gather around Nosu's empty seat, laying flowers in his memory after he was killed by an insector. Some girls start talking about Sejin, who also turned into an insector. Hearing this, Choa becomes upset and firmly tells them not to refer to Sejin as an insector since she's her friend. Afterwards, Choa approaches Yejin, asking her to tell the truth about Sejin because she was in the class at that time. Choa explains that although she witnessed everything from the window, she didn't step in because she was overwhelmed with sadness over her friend's transformation into an insector. After saying this, Choa walks away, leaving Yejin feeling concerned for her. Meanwhile, in a hidden area, Kami-san watches quietly as his insector shelter devours another insector's body. He thinks about how, ever since he consumed the larvae that day, the number of ants inside him has increased. After several failures, he finally succeeded in creating a swarm that can now hunt by itself. While reflecting on this, his insector shelter approaches him, and he pulls something from its mouth, making all the black ants return to his body. Suddenly, he senses the presence of 3 insectors nearby. He sees this as the perfect chance to test his newfound strength. Transforming into Ant-Man, he heads toward their location. As he gets closer, he notices that one of the insectors suddenly disappears. Watching from a distance, he sees two insectors standing beneath a bridge. One of them, Bara, kills his own ally right there. Bara then calls out to the other insector, Red, asking if he brought him here just for this. Red calmly admits it, saying he's been wanting to eliminate their enemies for a long time, but couldn't act earlier due to management restrictions. Now, with those limits gone, he can finally act. Bara immediately attacks Red, but Red counters with a strong punch to his stomach, defeating him in a single blow. Then, Red notices Kami's son, watching from afar, and calls out to him, asking if he wants to fight too. Kami's son accepts and steps forward. Red asks for his name, saying it's only right to know the name of the person you're about to kill. With that, Red charges and punches Kami's son in the chest, but the punch does nothing. In response, a shell shoots out from Kami's son's shoulder, striking Red. Introducing himself as Black Ant, Kami's son says this will be the last name Red ever hears. Red charges again, thinking he can easily dodge his opponent's attack. But when Kami's son's punch connects with his face, Red falls to his knees, realizing the punch seemed easy to predict, but its strength and speed were on a completely different level. Left with no choice, Red activates his full power mode, something he had hoped to avoid. He punches again, unleashing a blinding light that completely destroys the bridge they're fighting on. Both of them quickly jump off the collapsing bridge to avoid getting caught in the destruction. In that moment, Kami's son spots a bus about to fall. Without hesitation, he launches an ant shell attack at Red and rushes toward the bus to save it. Red dodges the attack and follows him to help. Together, they manage to rescue all the passengers from the bus, who thank them before quickly leaving. Red then declares that the second round of their fight has begun. He lunges at Kami's son again, but this time, Kami's son stops him with ease and delivers a brutal punch to Red's face, cracking his face armor. Grabbing Red by the neck, he's about to finish him off, but suddenly he lets go and tosses Red aside, turning away and walking off. Even then, Red vows under his breath that he'll definitely destroy him someday. Later that night, Choa is walking through the streets when she suddenly gets a call from her mother. Her mom asks where she is and mentions that Arthur told her Choa has been going out every day after school searching for Sejin. Choa tries to cover it up, but her mother firmly insists she return home immediately. Left with no choice, Choa agrees. As she turns to leave, a child calls out to her from behind, asking if she's talking about Sejin. That child turns out to be Chaeyon, the same antlion who had previously attacked the Bug Reaper group. He tells her that he knows where Sejin is and starts guiding her to another place. While they're walking, Choa asks who he is, and he slips up by calling himself an Insecta Senior. Hearing this, Choa smiles and asks how Sejin is doing with his work. Chaeyon casually replies that Sejin is stuck with Hanig and won't leave, describing it like some kind of sickness. Hearing that, Choa feels relieved and says she should head back now. But suddenly, Chaeyon reveals that finding Sejin wasn't the real reason he brought her here. He admits he's hungry and plans to eat her. As he summons some larvae, Choa panics. Chaeyon explains that he had to flee for survival, began eating humans, and fully accepted himself as an antlion. Choa turns and runs, but Chaeyon swiftly transforms into his insect form and traps her with his ability. He then commands the larvae to attack her. Just then, Yejin appears and uses her thread power to slice them all down. She kicks the ant lion aside and frees Choa from his trap. Feeling confused, the ant lion asks Yejin who she is. She simply replies that she's Silk and orders Choa to run before engaging him in battle. As more larvae attack, Yejin easily catches them with her threads and shreds them instantly. The ant lion grows even more puzzled and questions why she showed up out of nowhere while he was eating. He realizes she's the one who destroyed the Zagana and grows curious about her second companion, wondering how she plans to take him on by herself. In response, Yejin pulls out a bug pill specifically made to fight celestial insects like him. Seeing the pill, the ant lion panics and yells at her to put down. But without hesitation, Yejin swallows the pill, which only makes him angrier. He lashes out with a long arm strike, but to his shock, she becomes even stronger. In an instant, she cuts through his long arms using just her hair. She then leaps at him and delivers a brutal kick that slices through his actual arms. Even after this, The ant lion refuses to back down and attacks her with his long tongue, wrapping it tightly around her neck. But he grows even more alarmed when he sees that his attack leaves no mark on her at all. Calmly, she tells him that his attacks are useless against her now, because she has become stronger. She then grabs his tongue with her threads and slices it off. Screaming in agony, the ant lion tries to escape by burrowing underground, vowing to come back for revenge. But Yejin doesn't let him flee. She quickly spreads her threads below the surface, trapping him and tearing him to shreds. After finishing him off, she feels satisfied, realizing how powerful she has become, strong enough to even defeat a celestial insector. Just then, Park shows up in his insector form, challenging her to the next round. Yejin feels a flicker of fear at first, noticing that Kami's son isn't by her side. But she quickly calms herself, confident that her newfound strength is enough for this fight. With that, she charges toward him, launching a hair attack, declaring that she'll finish him off. Park tries blocking her strike with his twin swords, but her hair shatters both blades instantly. He realizes that if he lets his guard down even for a second, he could die here. He draws another pair of twin swords and mutters that the drug's effect is starting to wear off. As he counts down, Yejin closes in, ready to strike him with a kick. Just as he predicted, her drug-enhanced power suddenly fades, and her powerful hair vanishes. Shocked, she realizes what's happening. Park then tells her that the effect of the bug pill doesn't last long. Placing his sword at her neck, he orders her to surrender quietly and follow him. At the same time, Kami's son is at home with his grandmother, casually watching TV. Suddenly, he gets a message from Choa, asking if he plans to attend school tomorrow. He pauses to think, then decides against it, realizing he still hasn't mastered controlling the swarm, so there's no need to go. He then sends a message to Yejin, wondering how she's doing. Meanwhile, Yejin is at Club 6 Shot, where Park has taken her. A group of insect creatures is viciously beating her up. As Park watches, he recognizes her. She's the same girl who visited the club earlier. Suddenly, he hears a noise coming from her bag. Curious, he checks her phone and notices a message from Black Ant. Back at Kami's son's place, he tells his grandmother that he's heading to bed and won't be attending school tomorrow. While checking his phone, he's startled by a new message containing a photo. It's a shocking image. Yejin's shattered helmet with a Club 6 Shot card placed on top. Inside the club, Park approaches Yejin, who's now trapped inside a cage after the brutal beating. He mocks her weakness, pointing out that all the bug pills are gone because another girl had taken them all. Then, he questions her motives. Yejin calmly responds that her goal is to wipe out the insects. Her answer surprises Park, but he smirks, saying he let her live because, in the end, they're all the same anyway. He warns her that her next match is about to start, and it's a special one. She needs to prepare herself. Meanwhile, at the fighting arena, the referee, Jaja, steps up and starts announcing the match. He explains the deadly rules. 10 fighters will enter, but only one can survive. First, he introduces Yejin, the main participant of this round. As Yejin steps into the ring, Jaja lays out the rules. Every minute, a new opponent will enter. If she fails to defeat an opponent within that minute, the enemies will keep piling up, making survival almost impossible. Then, Jaja introduces the second fighter, officially beginning the match. The insector opponent immediately lunges toward Yejin to strike. Elsewhere, in a separate cage, another insector named Red is busy practicing, with Park standing nearby. Park tells Red that he's the 10th fighter in this match. Red looks serious and questions whether Park truly wants him to join such a brutal game. Red suggests that Park should instead use him as the star of the main event. But Park refuses, explaining that Red would slaughter every participant and destroy the entire business. Red also coldly mentions that he's itching to kill Park and Kong, the boss. Suddenly, Park's phone rings, and he's visibly stunned to hear that the VIP elevator, used by special guests to descend, has vanished. Reacting quickly, Park orders Red to get ready. His opponent has arrived. Back in the arena, the referee is shocked to see Yejin defeating her 4th opponent with ease. He quickly announces the arrival of the 5th fighter, Queen Jack. Jack strikes swiftly, overwhelming Yejin and slamming her to the ground. As Yejin's stamina begins to fade, 3 more fighters enter and encircle her. Just as another minute is about to pass, the referee prepares to call on the 9th fighter. But to everyone's horror, the head of the 9th contestant is suddenly sliced off right in front of them. That's when Kami's son makes his dramatic entrance, fully transformed into his powerful insector form. The referee angrily demands to know who he is, warning that unregistered fighters are banned from joining. Ignoring him, Kami-sun coldly tells him to shut up and hurls a fire attack from his hand, melting the referee's arm. Then, he firmly orders them to bring Yejin to him, blasting other insectors along the way. Suddenly, Yejin's voice rings out from behind the crowd. She warns him to stop, saying his attacks might accidentally harm her too. Though relieved to see her, his face tightens with worry when Park shows up and puts a sword to Yejin's neck. Kami-sun freezes, unable to attack with her in danger. Taking advantage, Park commands all the other insectors to attack and kill Kami-sun. But as they rush him, he unleashes more of his power, effortlessly crushing them. Seeing this, Jack springs forward and pins Kami-sun down to the ground. Park orders her to drag him over. However, to Park's shock, Jack's body suddenly explodes into bloody pieces, and Kami-sun rises from the carnage, unscathed. Realizing how much stronger Kami-sun has become, Park suspiciously asks if he's consumed any larvae. Without flinching, Kami-sun coldly demands that he hand over Yejin, calling her his emergency food. Meanwhile, the crowd starts getting furious at Park, demanding their money back since all the insectors have been killed, and they had placed their bets on them. Park, clearly annoyed, tells them he'll return their money, but only if they place even bigger bets this time. At this moment, Kami-sun realizes Park now plans to fight him alone. Confidently, Kami-sun declares that he'll finish Park quickly, but Park calmly tells him that he's not his real opponent. The true opponent is actually standing behind him, the 10th player of the battle. Kami-sun quickly turns around and spots Red, the same opponent he fought earlier. He asks Red if he's here for revenge, and Red confirms it before lunging at him. But to everyone's shock, Red suddenly changes direction midair and instead lands a powerful punch right on Park's face. Kami-sun stands there, confused by what just happened. Red then explains that he's been watching everything from above, and now it's his turn to take care of Park. He tells Kami-sun to leave, assuring him that he'll handle Park alone from here. Kami-sun agrees and immediately grabs Yejin, rushing to escape. As they run, Park transforms into his insector form and begins a fierce battle with Red. While Kami-sun is escaping with Yejin, she curiously asks him how he even got down there without a key card. Casually, Kami-sun replies that he simply broke the elevator. Yejin is stunned, but quickly urges him to get her out of there fast. However, just as Kami-sun starts climbing, he suddenly senses something strange. To his shock, Kong, the boss, appears out of nowhere and lands a brutal punch on Kami-sun's face, shattering his face armor. Kong stares him down, demanding to know how he dared to damage the club's property. He recalls the moment when he was about to devour Nosu's insector, but was interrupted by his servant, who informed him that someone had wrecked the elevator. Acting swiftly, Kong arrived and immediately started fighting Kami-sun. He grabs Kami-sun by the neck and hurls him hard against the wall. Kami-sun cries out in pain, but Kong orders him to shut up and punches him straight in the face again. As Kong grabs Kami-sun's head, Kami-sun desperately hurls an ant's shell at Kong, striking him in the face. But the attack has no effect. Just as Kong is about to strike back, Yejin uses her threads to grab his arm. For the first time, Yejin pushes herself to the absolute limit. She realizes that even if she pulls out every thread she has, it still won't be enough to stop him. Kong simply laughs at her efforts, challenging them to give it everything they've got.